First, let me tell you why you should be looking at participating in an Android course. You're probably aware, and there's a good chance that you're using an Android phone or a tablet right now. As it stands, Android is the most popular operating system as far as mobile devices are concerned. When I say mobile devices, they are, of course, smartphones, and then you have tablets. And then again, Android has become popular enough that today you can buy laptops as well as computers that are powered by Android. And there are wearables, a new category in technology like smartwatches, which are also using Android. And then televisions are getting smarter thanks to Android. So in other words, whatever it is, as far as the consumer is concerned or a person who's working in an office is concerned, there's a good chance that one way or the other they are using applications that are designed to work on top of Android, which means you as a person have a lot to gain by becoming an Android developer. That's the biggest reason why you should be participating in an Android application development course. Now, before I tell you what are the things that define our training, let me go ahead and talk to you about the different levels of training that come with this course. We have the basic level training, and then of course we have the intermediate level of training, and then finally we have the advanced level of training. So our idea when we are designing this course is, if you are new to Android, or even if you're new to programming itself, then we should bring you up to speed with the basic concepts. Once you have understood the basic concepts of Android development, we would like to bring you to intermediate topics which are not very simple, not very advanced. And then finally, as we close out the training, we'll teach you advanced concepts which will allow you to build apps that you yourself might have downloaded and used as part of your everyday life. It could be personal use, apps such as chatting apps or photo editing apps or even games. These are the apps which you would download and use as an everyday consumer. On the other hand, you could also be using enterprise apps which are designed and deployed by your company to make your everyday life as an employee better. So the idea is, in the beginning classes, you learn the basics of Android, and then when you come to intermediate level, you learn the kind of not so easy, not so tough topic, and by the time you wrap up the advanced level training, you will be in a position to take an idea and then build that app yourself. That is how the course has been divided into 3 different levels of training. Now let me go back to the introduction level of training here, where we'll start off. Our module, the module which covers the basic level training, is the essential Android development. Now here we will go ahead and spend some time on explaining to you what is Android. What is Android as an operating system? How exactly did it start, and how has it changed the entire scenario as a mobile operating system? Now the Android, it has something called as an application architecture. I mean, every application, every particular operating system, for example, Windows or the cloud or any other operating system for that matter, comes with its own architecture. The Android application development will talk about this architecture of Android apps as well. Of course, Android architecture has a set of libraries which are built in, which will allow you to build standard apps. Now, once you understand the basics of Android, its origins and its libraries and the architecture, we'll then start off right away with developing some simple apps. For instance, we'll start off by developing a Hello World app where we'll display a few strings on the screen. Then we'll move on and we'll start accepting input. And like that, we'll keep on adding features one by one until you have a grasp of how it works. Now, to build this essential app, you will need to know what are the tools we will use to build the app. So we will talk about the Android SDK. As of now, we will be focusing on using the Android Studio, which is the officially supported IDE from Google. Previously, we would have used Eclipse. However, now we would be focusing on using Android Studio. And I'll also tell you, when you build apps, you need to deploy them. So you can deploy these apps on your phone, which is connected to your development computer. And of course, the Android Studio comes with its own emulators where you can create emulators. There are some pros and cons of using an emulator to test your apps. You are using your own device, so we'll discuss that as well. We'll of course discuss how to debug your app, because as your app grows in size, it will start working with a lot of classes, a lot of variables and objects which are talking to multiple activities as the app runs. So you need to know how to debug your application, which is very important as the size of the app grows. So we'll spend a lot of time there as well. And then we'll also teach you how to design the layout, because every app is actually two parts. On one side, you have the layout, which is the user interface part. On the other side, you have the backend file, which is the Java file, which does or responds to actions from the user. So we'll talk about the layout and we'll talk about the backend file, which together are called as activities in Android. Of course, we'll spend a lot of time on designing user interfaces, and of course, we'll talk about the layouts, which are an important part of the user interface, and then of course, intents, which is the very core of the Android experience. Whenever you have to do something, like for instance, you have to go from one activity to another activity, you have to use an intent. Whenever you have to pick up a photo from the camera, again, you're using intents. So anything and everything you have to do in an Android, you will end up using intent. So we'll be spending sufficient amount of time in that topic as well. So this would wrap up the beginning level of training. When by the time you're done with the beginning level of training, you would have a very essential idea about how to use the SDK to build very simple, static, not connected to online services type of apps